Good afternoon again. I'm Dakota Makris. Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Steins was exposed to fentanyl during the weekend. Steins said he pulled over a car with a suspected fugitive in the passenger seat. Shortly after making the arrest, the sheriff was exposed to fentanyl that was in the car. Steins says he knew not to freak out in the moment.
I knew I needed to remain calm because in any emergency situations, you need to try to remain as calm as you can. We're all humans. We're going to have some kind of nervousness, anxiety.
We'll have more on Steins' story as well as how fentanyl is changing the way recovery centers operate coming up when you join us tonight at 6. Well, there are many types of heat-related illness you should be on the lookout for, but none is more dangerous than heat stroke, which can damage organs. When it comes to the definition of a heat stroke, you'll notice a rapid increase in body temperature that won't be able to cool down and sweat that will slow if not stopped. Those who usually fall ill to heat stroke or related illness are younger kids and older adults. And with meteorological summer approaching, emergency workers are already seeing an increase in calls.
Maybe they worked too long in the heat, didn't take a break. Maybe they'll pass out, just not start feeling well. Just an increased call volume related to weather, especially the really hot days.
Well, experts say some of the most common places to see heat-related illnesses are rural areas and outdoor activities. Well, they add if they are sitting up, offering a cool rag and water is the way to go.
Well, the good news is that while record-breaking heat not in the offing for this week, as we head into astronomical summer tomorrow, things are looking rather toasty indeed. Outside at the moment, it's not been too terribly hot today, and you can thank clouds for that, at least in our northern and eastern sections. It's overcast here in Hazard out front of our studios at WYMT. A little bit more sunshine working into downtown Whitesburg from our MCHC camera there. Low 80s outside right now, but it feels even cooler than that thanks to those dew points being in the middle 40s. Temperatures around the region, it's cooler where we've seen those clouds hang on today. We're in the low to mid 70s versus the middle and upper 80s and even near 90 as you head towards Lake Cumberland. Monticello checking in at 90. But notice those dew points, they're not off the charts. They're rather in control, which means it's not a muggy heat. It's more of a dry heat. And actually, if you're in an area that's not seeing the 90s, it's actually rather comfortable outside. Pinpoint Doppler, now a few showers. Maybe you're trying to work into places like downtown Pikeville, central parts of Lawrence County. It's because we're on the edge of the ring of fire, as we call it. High pressure to our west. We're getting the influence of a couple of those showers to the east. So keep that WYMT weather app handy as we head through tonight. We're back in the mid 60s as we head to bed, and then waking up in the morning not far from 60 either. I'll have the details on how much warmer we get and when we could see a little bit of rainfall coming up in just a few minutes. Dakota?
All right, Evan, thank you. Well, millions of Americans are off today in observance of Juneteenth, the nation's newest federal holiday. Juneteenth marks the date in 1865 when Union troops arrived in Yellowstone, Texas to announce that all enslaved people were free, more than 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Astrid Martinez reports from New York.
Vice President Kamala Harris visited with children at the National Museum of African American History and Culture to talk about the importance of the new Juneteenth holiday.
And let this be a day that is a day to celebrate the principle of freedom, but to speak about it honestly and accurately.
Juneteenth celebrations began over the weekend. At Emancipation Park in Houston, there was music, history, and food.
We get together, we eat, we laugh, we listen to music, we dance, we praise God, we do it all.
In Fort Worth, Texas, 95-year-old Opal Lee, known as the grandmother of Juneteenth, led her annual 2.5-mile walk for freedom, symbolizing the 2.5 years it took for the enslaved black people in Texas to be freed after the Emancipation Proclamation.
And when they learned they were free, they started celebrating, and we've been celebrating ever since.
Here in New York City, the mayor for the first time declared Juneteenth a paid holiday for city workers. But across the nation, observances are different. Fewer than half the states recognize the holiday for their government workers. Lawmakers in Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, and other states failed to pass the needed legislation to give their public employees a paid day off. Supporters of Juneteenth worked more than 25 years to persuade the government to make it a federal holiday. Astrid Martinez, CBS News, New York.
After the Senate unanimously approved the legislation, President Joe Biden signed it into law last year. Well, it's World Refugee Day, and the United Nations says the number of refugees worldwide has now topped 100 million, with a third of them being children. More than a third of Ukrainians have fled Russia's invasion, and nearly 2/3 of Ukraine's children are now homeless, according to the UN. In the crisis, Americans are stepping up to help, from celebrities like Ben Stiller to everyday folks like Mark Proppert from Nebraska.
Our mission here is to move people from the frontline areas out to safer areas.
Well, while most have escaped to neighboring Poland, nearly 7,000 refugees have found safety in the U.S., with some 20,000 more expected to arrive. Since 1975, the United States has welcomed more than 3 million refugees from all around the world. Well, the debate over the gay marriage ban continues in Japan. In the latest case, the ban was ruled constitutional. The decision came down Monday after 3 same-sex couples sued the Japanese government, saying the ban breaches a section of the Constitution that requires equal laws for everyone. But Japanese public broadcaster NHK reported the court ruled against them and dismissed the lawsuit. Japan is the only G7 country that hasn't recognized either same-sex civil unions or same-sex marriage at a national level, though some parts of the country issue partnership certificates. A change of plan for former Vice President Mike Pence. He is not meeting with a GOP group on Capitol Hill this week. A source says the ex-vice president has rescheduled plans to meet with the Republican Study Committee Tuesday. He blames a scheduling conflict. The conservative group was supposedly told about the issue last week. The meeting will now take place in July. Yellowstone will welcome back visitors this week for the first time since closing due to record-breaking floods. Officials say Yellowstone's South Loop will reopen to the public Wednesday. Officials originally closed all entrances into the park after record rainfall, causing dangerous flooding that damaged roads and destroyed property. At one point, the Yellowstone River rose to its highest level in more than 100 years. Sunday, the National Park Service said it will use $50 million in emergency funds to restore temporary access to parts of the park that's in Montana, as well as other additional sites. One Pikeville woman is celebrating a big birthday while also celebrating 6 decades as a small business owner. She tells WYMT's Buddy Forbes it has been quite the journey.
Balloons, photos, and banners marking a special day for one of Pikeville's business leaders, celebrating life and love right here where it has all happened. Nancy Ritchie, owner of Ritchie's Art and Gift Shop on Pikeville's 2nd Street, just turned 95 years old. And for the last 60 years, her store has been a Pikeville staple for gifts, cards, and more, as she has served the community, watching the city change before her eyes along the way.
When we first opened this up was even before the railroad track. I mean, the train run through down there, and the dishes on the wall, when the train would go through, they'd shake. You could hear them.
Ritchie says the years have been kind to her family, and the community support has really helped her business over the years. So celebrating here just makes sense. In Pikeville, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Ritchie is originally from Hazard. Coming up at 6, hear more about her years of gifts and growing. Well, coming up here on Mountain News First at 4, the next generation of solar panels may not attach to your roof as companies are now developing solar windows.
And plenty of sunshine and warm air is set to move into the mountains as we head over the next couple of days. Details on when we could see some showers to cool us off. That's next.